and welcome to Making Events Matter. I'm Dom Honey from Event Results, and I'm here with long-term collaborator and old friend Steve Bather. Steve is also head honcho of the Realise Group. We've spent our careers turning events from just another gathering to making them matter. And today we're talking about how best to onboard speakers to ensure event success. Hi Steve, how's your August going?
Pretty good, Dom. Thanks. Hi. Hope you're doing well. This is always a really critical element in designing any event, and there, of course, are a number of critical people within the event. Certainly, your keynote speakers, certainly your presenters and speakers for the key elements and the key sessions within the conference or workshop. But you've also got other roles like table group facilitators, people just to kind of stimulate the type of discussion and the depth of discussion that you want to have in table groups. There might be work stream owners, there may be specialists, there may be panel members, and so on. So one of the things we always do in advance of an event is make sure that those people are aligned, prepared, and aware about how the conference will feel for them, so that they can do their best job, they can deliver the messages that they want to the audience, and they can participate in the interaction.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing that the other lens we also look through when we're considering all of this is the style of the event, i.e. whether it's virtual, and people will also have to worry about technology, or speakers will also have to worry about technology, or a hybrid, and of course in person. So depending on the format, that also informs how we are going to onboard and brief the speakers, and indeed what kind of audience interaction and technology we'll be using as well. So we're often briefing speakers on how the audience is going to respond to them.
So what about just pick up on a couple of scenarios, of course, maybe just a hybrid meeting and then an in-person meeting, and just talk us through what the kind of timeline is for onboarding, say, speakers and presenters.
Well, I think in terms of timeline, the sooner the better. But the reality is, what we always find is speakers are nominated, keynotes and facilitators are nominated reasonably far in advance, but their focus on the event in question usually only comes around at best, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks before the actual event. And we are then actually only really able to brief 4 weeks in advance if we can, and then sometimes as short as 2 weeks in advance. So we tend to try and, if we've got multiple speakers as part of one session, we tend to find it's better if we can brief them all together, because they can decide between them based on what the topic is of the session, how best to divvy up their experience and not overlap too much, and really create a powerful content session. If that's not always possible, but that's our objective, is to get them together. Keynotes are a bit different.
And that's really key, isn't it? Because they can begin to talk about what they're presenting and how that might overlap and integrate with the other key topics from that session in the workshop or conference. I think people find that unusual. I think being introduced to other speakers in your session is something that people don't necessarily do.
It is unusual, but without fail, speakers appreciate it. It raises the event, it puts it on their agenda often a lot earlier. We don't necessarily expect to get the PowerPoint or anything like that until closer to the time, but actually getting them to talk and connect 4 to 6 weeks out or earlier, if we can achieve it, is great for them. And then once we've had that overall briefing, then they're connected and they can have conversations outside of that meeting in the lead up to the event if they need to. So, and indeed, if questions come up for us as facilitator and host or producer, then we can handle those.
Yeah, and of course, one of the elements I think we'll come back to in a minute is about the onboarding onto the online platforms, which helps enhance that kind of networking ability beforehand, not only with the other people in their session, perhaps co-presenters, but the other people, the participants. Because I think in terms of the speaker briefing, one or two of the things that are really critical in that meeting is that we basically align them to appreciate what we're trying to achieve,
the
and
objectives,
what the macro purpose and objectives are.
Yeah.
And we kind of ask them three questions. One is, what are the key messages that you want to land with the audience? So they're kind of clear that 2 or 3 messages in a presentation is about right. The second question is, how do those messages align with the overall purpose and objectives of the event?
Yeah.
And the third question is, what specifically would you want the audience to take away from your session? What might they do differently, or what might they follow up on? And what's in it for them, basically.
Yeah, and remember.
And I think quickly, just the second element is to ensure that they're kind of small c contracted to deliver the right length of presentation.
Of course.
One of our techniques here has always been to decide whether it's going to be a 3, a 6, a 9, a 12, or perhaps even a 14, 15-minute presentation. We rarely go beyond 14, 15 minutes. It's quite obvious why TED Talks are 50 minutes long, and if you want to learn anything about a new topic, perhaps that you know nothing about, then watch a TED Talk and see how much you can learn in just a mere 15 minutes. But what we're also doing is saying you haven't got 5, 10 or 15 minutes, you've got 3, 6, 9, 12 minutes. So people think, oh, that's interesting. And when you show them the schedule, you see that what we're trying to do is minimize the presenting element in the event, and we're trying to maximize the interaction, the engagement, the networking, and certainly want to balance out anybody who's presenting for any length of time with about equal time for Q&A, so that the audience then get the opportunity to drag further information and answers from the presenter live. And also on the platforms that we're going to talk about in a minute afterwards.
Yeah. But I think, no, it's fine. But a couple of things that to follow on from that, and what I've heard you say many times to speakers, which has always successfully landed, is we understand that you, the speaker, are the content expert. You've got years of experience. You might have published loads of papers or worked in a corporate for 20 years in a leadership role. But you can't distill all of that knowledge into even an hour's worth of presentation. And we need to give airtime to lots of speakers during the conference. So focus on the objectives of the session and the macro objectives of the overall event, and go for the things that, the really key things that you can convey in the time that's been allotted, and then allow the attendees to lead you and the other speakers, if there are them in the session, to be attendee led. So get their questions, because those are that they're most interested in. So yes, you're interested in what you've got to say, but we give equal opportunity to the participants to lead the conversation once you've finished your presentation. And that tends to work really well when, as everyone has a very short, limited time to present. And then my second point on this is what we then say is, of course, we've got a platform, a digital platform, a mobile app or a browser app that attendees and you, dear speaker, will have access to. So that's great from 2 perspectives. One is the speaker can see who is going to be attending their session or the event overall, their backgrounds, and that is often a question a speaker has. But during the briefing, what we're also asking the speaker to give us is a synopsis of their presentation before we see their slides. So we get a paragraph on the key highlights of what they're going to say. We can publish that on the platform so that is shared with the attendees. And we can also ask the speakers to provide us with additional reading materials, PDFs, links, whatever it is, videos even, which we can then also publish as part of their session information, which in advance of when we launch these platforms to the attendees, gives the attendees a really rich understanding of additional information or what the speakers are going to say during that session. And so that really starts to drive engagement with the platform, with the speakers, and vice versa in the run-up and actually at the event itself.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think that lead up and engaging people, not just the speakers, but the participants in the platform in advance, really does enhance the quality of the event, because people have kind of broken the ice by the time they get there. They know who the speakers are. They're looking forward to particular sessions. They've planned their route through workshops or table group discussions, and they kind of know who they want to pick up with when they get to in person or indeed online in a hybrid.
Yeah.
I think the other digital platform that we talk about is this ability for participants, whether virtual or in person, to actually interact with the speakers during the presentations. And we've spoken about this before on many of our podcasts. XLeap is our chosen tool at the moment. We're always looking for different and new tools, and the market is changing all the time. But XLeap gives us the ability for participants to just very simply be able to write down questions, comments, reflections, and even just insights during the presentation. And then one of my roles as facilitator is to then host the Q&A immediately afterwards with the presenter. We're certainly not expecting the presenter to notice or moderate through the questions during the presentation, but I will pick up, or we have perhaps another expert in the room who can pick up on the various topics and direct then the questions to the presenter. We can't get through all the questions, so we also give the presenter the opportunity to go back into the tool afterwards and add some responses, which of course we then publish as a report against the video on the platform for that community of practice part of the process following the event that we have also talked about in previous podcasts. So that combination of technologies, the ability for the anonymity and the simultaneity of people being able to comment and question the speakers, to be able to pick up on the platform and connect and network with people, these all enhance the potential and the value that participants and speakers get. And what we're talking about specifically today is how we start that way into the planning process, perhaps 3 to maybe 6 weeks in advance of the event.
Yes, yeah. And I suppose the other thing we're doing during that onboarding process is considering inclusivity and cultural sensitivity, because often we're working with international groups or in countries where maybe English isn't the first language. So what are we doing during the onboarding process with speakers to ensure that people feel heard, comfortable, that we're considerate of cultural or language backgrounds?
Yeah, there are a number of things. Just the very basic, way people sit, their equipment. If they're a remote participant or presenter, then we're helping them get aligned with their technology. So the lighting's right; they're not sitting in front of a window. That their body is kind of viewable in the video. How they use their slides and how that's integrated and so on. But yeah, more deeply, it's about understanding their requirements from in terms of perhaps they're not first language English speakers.
Yes.
And we may have to provide translation or captions sometimes for the presentations. But there's a number of other technical things that we can do as well, just to make them feel utterly comfortable and confident that they can deliver what they want to the audience, which again enhances the quality of the event.
Yeah, and I think also the XLeap platform that we offer, because it's allows anonymous input, it means that in patriarchal or hierarchical societies that we might operate in, it enables everybody to have a perspective and to share an opinion or to ask a question, because it's through the technology, rather than people being nervous about being around superiors in the room and having to put their hand up. So it allows a much more level playing field. And I know that you are also very hot on people's names because you'll be introducing them. So you're in advance of the event, you're finding out how people want to be introduced, and you actually write down and share with me and others exactly how to pronounce a name. If it's a difficult name for an English speaker to say, do it phonetically. And then obviously make sure that they're introduced or on site or during the event correctly.
Yeah, and that again is something that we can create during those speaker briefings when we actually connect with those speakers. They understand what we're trying to do, and we get the chance to explain what our role is. Because many of them, thinking about some international scientific conferences we've run recently, where they don't know that external agencies can provide facilitation and event production.
That's right.
So it's kind of explaining our roles as well, and I think that quite excites them because sometimes, although the content is is highly leading edge, quite often this size and scale of conference is quite amateur. And they have to scrabble around to plug in the HDMI to get their laptop on the lectern to show the slides and so on. So, we're giving them the best chance to focus entirely on the content, and for us to kind of capture and, make sure everything else works really, really well, and that the quality of the dialogue between the audience and the presenter is absolutely the most critical and useful and valuable element of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's definitely the case that we bring a professionalism to conference delivery and production that many customers haven't had before. But also on top of that, the briefing is a nice step for us to connect with the speakers. We're going to be working with them closely during the event, and so it sort of breaks the ice a long way in advance of the event, not just for their fellow speakers to meet, but it's also a good opportunity for us to meet and to make that connection so that hopefully they're more relaxed and deliver better when it comes to them speaking either by camera to a virtual event or hybrid event, or indeed in person when they're there.
And we both find that that kind of breaking that ice and connecting with the speakers means that they feel more able to connect back with us. So we get lots of questions about the style and type of slides they're going to use, perhaps, or whether they are going to use slides or not, or what works best from our perspective. So they kind of begin to ask questions about things that they perhaps haven't really considered before about how their presentation comes across. What are the best visuals to use, and so on. But also one of the questions we get asked is what about there's a huge amount of data information that we collate during perhaps a 2 or 3 day event. Let's just talk a little bit about what we do legacy-wise. We've talked about the community of practice and the ongoing kind of a platform engagement, but a lot of this material is published, and of course we have the AI tools as well. So just tell us a little bit more about how that works from the perhaps participant perspective a few weeks later after the event.
Yeah, so obviously the content that we record during the conference is of great value when it's delivered at the time, but it also has a legacy value because what we do post-event is transition our digital platform from an event focused platform to a community focused platform. And so what we do is we take the recordings, whether that's video and audio or just audio, and start to publish those to the community platform after the event. So this is great if people want to return and catch up on something that they missed, or if indeed they are being added to the community post-event because they are subject matter experts or interested in the particular topic, and they can then go back and listen to what was said in the keynotes or in a breakout or whatever we've recorded. But on top of that, because we've got the content, both the PowerPoint, we've got the synopsis, we've got other information that the speakers have shared, but we've also got what was said at the time. We can pour all of that rich content into an AI tool and then give that back to the attendees. So the attendees can go in and query the AI in their own words and ask for the key highlights of a particular session, or ask what were the questions that were answered, or you use AI in the same way you do ChatGPT or Gemini to ask specific questions of the conference as a whole. And that's a really powerful way to continue the value, continue the momentum generated by the event. And it allows participants to go back and ask specific questions. I don't have to trawl through 50 speaker profiles or trawl through 30 sessions worth of video content. They just ask the AI, and that will surface the answers that they're looking for.
I think that's been an absolutely incredible enhancement to that post-event element, because quite often in the past, the getting attention from people after an event has always proved quite difficult, and they kind of work towards this kind of huge climax of 5 o'clock on day 3 that ends.
Yes.
And they kind of jump back in next day, pick up on all the work they've missed because they've been traveling for a week, and we tend to forget about the legacy. But it's such a hugely important part of the return on investment, the legacy, and the ongoing work. And just one last thing to mention, of course, that material can be opened to other people who perhaps didn't attend the conference for whatever reason. Perhaps they're team members within the organization, or they're early career researchers, or they're people who are just interested in the subject matter, who want to kind of interrogate the data through using the AI tools to see what is of relevance to them. And we've had some great stories and feedback around people picking up on specific themes or threads through a 3-day conference that has then helped them with a paper or a PhD, or indeed just connecting with the people who are then the experts revealed through the conference.
Absolutely. Having access to the content of the event over the long term post-event is of huge value. And we don't just let it sit there. We develop it, we add to it. We ensure that people are being reminded about the content and the engagement there, and we often publish a news feed to allow attendees to update the entire community with new updates that are relevant to that audience. So, and we've had post event we also track the data, the visits. What people are looking at, so we know what people are most interested in. We know how many people are still, interested in the platform, and probably our best performing communities of over maybe 2 or 3 years. We've had 50 or 60% engagement, years after the event actually took place. So we've had great success with making an effort, but also considering what the post-event engagement strategy should be, and helping achieve ROI in the long run with our clients. So
and I think it's worth saying that because our industry has been quite poor in the past at measuring the impact of events, and certainly the return on the investment, which quite often is hundreds of thousands of pounds. When you collect it all together, I think that legacy means that your stats from the platform can actually produce measurable returns on investment. So we know the impact, and of course we know when it's tailed off to the point where that's now done, and we close the platform down. But all good stuff. Listen, if there is any other topic or comment that you think we should pick up on in our series of podcasts, of course we're not running out of material, but please leave a comment and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, messages on LinkedIn, and just be in touch. We're about all things events and event production, event facilitation, always open to new ideas around design and things that work for you. So let us know in the comments, and we'll perhaps even dial you in, and we'll produce more topics on this fascinating making events matter.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Tom.
Great way to end. Thanks, Steve.